So, you are a psychologist. Can you read my face? This is probably one of the most common questions that me, along with many other psychologists, have been asked. But before we go to answer that question, let me ask you something. Have you guys watched Inside Out? If so, then you might have seen this very common clip.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
I won't really apologize for adding the dancing cats. You're welcome. But coming back to the topic, if we look at this clip, it's pretty much how a lot of us think. We are all curious about what people might be thinking or what people might be feeling. And psychologists study just that. They follow a lot of theories and try to understand what might be going on in people's minds. A lot of times when people ask me this question, so can you read my face? It used to first make me really angry, it made me frustrated, sometimes it made me laugh. But it also made me look at this question with a lot of curiosity. The thing is, psychologists do observe some form of facial expressions, but we combine it with observing how people act, what they might be feeling, and also understanding how they're thinking, and the people and the influences around them. And a lot of times, reading facial expressions can be very inaccurate. As a psychologist, I've had people unfamiliar with this field ask me questions where they almost make it seem like psychology is like mind reading and something mystical. It makes me a bit sad that there's a big gap between what the subject actually is and what people believe it to be. Which also means people end up getting nervous around psychologists, thinking that we might read their deepest thoughts or try to read into their family dynamics even when they don't want us to. But that's not what psychologists do at all. It's such a vast field that not everyone works as counseling or clinical psychologists either. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what psychology might be seen as and what psychologists end up doing. This is not going to be a super theoretical video, so you will not really find me talking about existing research or existing books and topics related to that. We'll do that in a later video. But today, I want to introduce psychology using examples and analogy. But it won't be fair for me to talk about psychology without talking about what APA says psychology is. Now, APA is American Psychological Association, and they define psychology as the study of mind and behavior. They say that this discipline embraces all aspects of human experiences, from functions of the brain to actions of nations, from child development to caring for the elderly. In many ways, psychology is understanding the entirety of a person, who we are and what we do and why we do that. A way to understand psychology would be maybe looking at it as understanding the bricks and cement that creates the building that is a person. Let me explain the previous example a little more. Let's say you come back from your office, school or college, and you look around your house and you realize that you actually like being there and it's your safe space. But if we look at the fundamentals of what makes a house, it would be bricks and cement. But what makes it meaningful to you is maybe the way you decorate it, people in the house who live with you, and the people you like spending time with. All of this adds meaning to that house. If we apply the same parallel to psychology, then it's kind of the same, where our own childhood experiences, the family we grew up with, the schools that we went to, or just our health, physical health, or maybe our genetics, everything makes some amount of contribution to make us, a unique individual, right? But let me use another example. Now we'll take something that is an indispensable part of our life. No, I'm not talking about our phones, but where's the lie in that? I'm using one to record this video. I'm actually talking about language. We use language to have conversations, write, read, watch movies, and whatnot. And if we look at India, then there are so many documented and undocumented languages. But for the sake of this video, I'll be using English. English has 26 alphabets and so many rules of grammar. Now, when we take these alphabets and use grammar, we end up creating words and sentences, both simple and complex. And with that, we write so many beautiful things, poems, short stories, wonderful movies, and whatnot. And the basis of all of it is language and grammar. How simple. Now, if we apply the same parallel once again to psychology, we'll realize that the alphabets and grammar that we have in English, the parallel of that would be, let's say, concepts like genetics or our biological health, the structure of our brain, and maybe the grammar would be the social experiences that we had, the people we spoke to, our family, and how they impacted us. All of this have an effect on us. Let's say they might have effect on the memories that we create, the personality that we might have. And then they end up creating the person that we are, aka the poems and the stories in English that I mentioned before. Now, this is an oversimplified understanding of psychology, but the crux is that psychologists study all these theories and concepts to study us, the individual. The thing is, psychologists don't really make assumptions about people around them. That's years and years of studying and research behind it. So, if the question is, can psychologists read faces and minds? Then the answer would be no. Psychologists use the scientific research work and studies and try to apply them in real life. They observe behaviors and they observe how we might act in particular situations. And all of this is done through observation, not just making plain assumption or something mystical. But here are a few things that psychologists might do. A psychologist who gets further training to become a counseling or clinical psychologist might help us find patterns in our behavior, in our thoughts, in our choices and decisions, and help us change them if needed, or at least help us understand them more in depth. Some psychologists also end up becoming trainers or mentors. You might have seen some of them provide stress management courses or communication courses. A lot of them are psychologists. Some psychologists also end up becoming business owners or teachers or writers. It might seem like they went completely on the other side of what they studied, but a lot of psychologists applied what they studied during their degree to make sure that maybe they write characters that are interesting, or they interact with students better, or they interact with their employees better. At the end of the day, psychology is a really vast subject and not just about becoming clinical or counseling psychologists. If you feel curious about what psychology is and what are all the concepts in there, I'll be linking the name of some of the books and articles out there, and you can check them out. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be making more videos on psychology and everything related to it. And I hope to see you all again. Bye.